Now let's take a look at importing various formats into Shade. So let's first try to import um, SVG, which is basically like a vector image. And now to do it, we need to go to Shade's plugin page first. And there we have SVG importer, which we have to purchase. It's $2.50. And once we install this, we can import this format into Shade as lines. So then we just go here, import SVG, and we can import. For example, here I have Affinity Designer, where I just created a few simple lines, just like that, using the pencil tool. Right, as you can see, these are the all vector lines which we can modify. This one was created with this vector brush, so it's a bit thicker, and then we have a circle as well. So now if we want to export this, for instance, we just go to export SVG for export. Yeah, that's it, and we just export it from here. So we click export, and we just type any name we want. Let's call it test. And now back in Shade, we go to our import. We select our file. We can leave these at default unless we have some special requirements. And then we just import it. And as you can see, it comes as a bunch of lines. Depending on which tool we use in our vector software, it may come as individual lines, or it may come in groups. Right, this one, the thicker one came as a closed line. The thinner came as open lines. Right, so Shade will automatically convert it into whatever's appropriate. And then we can just simply start modeling, right? We can start putting them into a curved surface groups. You have to be mindful, for example, these thicker vector lines that came as a closed lines, you can see that they are very dense. Right, so you have to be mindful that it may create quite a dense geometry if you put it into a group. Right, so basically that's how you can import this kind of lines, and which may be very useful for creating some sort of a very sophisticated geometry. And in a similar way, you can do it in Photoshop. For example, here we are in Photoshop, where we created a shape we want to import. So just select it and go to Path, Make Work Path. So essentially what we're doing here, we're creating an Illustrator file, because then we choose Export Path to Illustrator, and we save it as AI file, right? So a typical Adobe Illustrator file. Let's say we save it as shape, and back in Shade, again, we go to Import, and we choose EPSF. Now this EPSF basically allows us to import Illustrator file, and here we are, right? We have our shape, in this case created out of 3 closed lines. So let's for example do something here. What I want to do, let's first take all of them out of their default folders. Okay, let's remove those folders. Let me select all of them. Or maybe let's convert them first to polygon without any subdivision, not necessary. And now let's select them all and merge them into a single polygonal mesh. So now we have a single mesh, and maybe let's give it a bit of thickness. So we can go to Modify Mesh and give it a bit of thickness. And here we are, right? We have a imported shape turned into a actual geometry that we can now use. And if you go to the Shade website, in the tutorials section, you can find a couple of other tutorials, like for example, how to bring elements from Substance, or how to bring elements from DAZ Studio. All right, so you may want to check these out.